Hello, everyone. This is Donna Russo with today's show, LA, the Disability Channel. And I am so happy today because my guest today is Becky Curran Kekula. And she works with employment development, and she has a BS in marketing from Providence College. And she works with inclusion for companies, and she is the director for the Department Index for Inclusion in Corporations. So I'm really happy. I'm feeling very studious today, so I love my glasses. Without further ado, we will come back with Becky. Hi, Becky. How are you?
Hi, Donna. I'm great. How are you?
Good, good, good. I'm so happy to have you on the show today. I'm first you have done so many things, and you're on so many boards and advisory boards, and I want to talk about it all because it's so interesting. You have a BS in marketing from Providence College, and your passion is for authentic portrayal for people with disabilities in media and society. And you work for Inclusion In. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your role is?
Yeah, so the organization's called Disability In. We assist corporate with their disability inclusion efforts in business. So really getting companies to be more inclusive of people with disabilities. My role specifically is the director of the Disability Equality Index, which is a benchmarking tool that companies use to self-assess their disability inclusion journey. And the goal is to reduce the unemployment rate of people with disabilities and allow people more opportunities to work. One of the great things that came out of the unfortunate pandemic was the ability to have flexible work options, encouraging companies to allow people to work from home if that's what works best for them. But of course, now that the pandemic has settled down a bit, there are some people that still may want to go into the office physically, which does not mean we can go backwards in physical accessibility. And just making sure that employers are putting it out there that someone can ask for an accommodation from the job application process to onboarding to interviewing to retention and advancement. Let's see more people with disabilities in high roles.
So you work with companies to see how they're doing with their inclusion, and you try to get them, and you try to get more companies involved to do that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's called Disability In.
Yes.
So, okay, now I'm correct. Now you have a background also. You are a casting director for CAA.
At Creative Artists Agency, I was a talent agent assistant, and then I worked in the casting department at
Oh,
CBS Television Studios.
yeah, that's great. And you must have loved that too. That was exciting, right?
It was a great experience, but it was slow moving when it came to disability inclusion, and I was eager for things to happen faster. And that's why I decided to move over to helping the corporate world, because in that space, direct competitors are coming together and sharing best practices and willing to make a change if they're given the right information. Where the entertainment industry is still very image focused, box office numbers, assuming that people with disabilities can't bring money in, even though authentic portrayals are important because it affects how people like us are treated in society.
Exactly. I feel that because I'm an actress and a dancer. I also do speaking, motivational speaking, as you do everywhere. Um, and it is important in the entertainment industry to have more inclusive roles for people. And, we are doctors, we are lawyers, we are secretaries, we are everything. And
Absolutely.
it needs to be out there. And I'm 4'5" myself. So, and it's hard. Now, you are on the chair or you are a chair on the Little People of America,
I'm the
right?
employment chair, so really helping focus on more job opportunities for people in the dwarfism community, bringing awareness to people who are ready, willing, and able to work. They just need a chance.
Oh, that's fantastic. And you've done things like you've hosted fashion
Yeah,
fashion shows at the Little People of America conferences. And
we
tell us about how tell us about doing that. Like you were the MC, right?
yes, the fashion shows have been an amazing experience. Back in the day, there have been over 60 years of celebration with the organization of Little People of America. And over the years, there has been a conference that happens during 4th of July week every summer. And on the agenda for the conference is a fashion show one of the nights. There's also a talent show and other great events. But the fashion shows are really a way for people to find an outfit that makes them feel confident and walk the runway. And instead of just talking about what people are wearing, we
Mhm.
also have built a narrative around how people are feeling. Like, what is confident? What does beauty mean to them? And that's what we read rather than just focusing on the outfit and someone's figure. It's just them being a part of the fashion community.
And who they are as
Yeah.
a person. It's
Exactly.
very, very, very important. And what other boards or advisory boards are you part of?
The
Do you know
National Center
some?
on Disability and Journalism at Arizona State University. One of the reasons I chose to accept that board position is they put together a great style guide. It's called the
Mhm.
NCDJ Style Guide, where it is meant to be for journalists, but it helps anyone in any profession when it comes to interacting with the disability community, the preferred terminology different groups within the disability community use, and terms to avoid. So I do invite people to take a look at the National Center on Disability and Journalism style guide, and it's available in multiple languages because it really helps change the narrative around disability and the fear that comes with doing the work around disability inclusion because people are afraid of offending.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things where people are afraid that, we can't do certain things because of our height. And we just have to find different ways to do things. Am I right? That's
Absolutely.
totally correct.
We just need a
Yeah,
step stool or a reacher, and we find a way to do it. We're determined.
exactly. Now, you've spoken in schools and colleges and corporations and nonprofits. Tell us, that's amazing because that brings awareness everywhere. And that's important. I love to speak to kids, so I spoke to kids as a dancer. And what's your favorite group? What do you connect with the most?
The kids. I was just at a school last week. I think it's a lot of fun talking to the kids and changing their mindset, and they're able to go home and educate their parents on how to be more inclusive. We assume that the narrative has to be the other way, but there's so much more inclusivity and diversity happening in schools today, and if kids can go home and teach their old school parents a thing or two, that can be helpful. I've kind of found a niche in going into schools where there's a person with a disability transitioning from elementary to middle school or middle to high school. And I go and share my story to the student body, allow them to ask me the tough questions with hopes of a smoother transition for that new student who may not be ready to answer the questions that people want to ask.
That's that's so important. It's so important to start with the kids because they are going to grow up and they are going to share their opinions and their feelings, and it's important that they learn how to talk about it and their feelings about it. And
Definitely.
I really, I'm so happy that you're going out there too. It's wonderful. But right now we're going to take a little break, and then I want to talk about your international experience in Kenya. So, and this is exciting because when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh. So we'll be right back, okay?
all about inclusion and really giving everyone a fair say.
Welcome to the Today Show. This is our flagship show. I am Unstoppable Tracy.
I am Zach Damon.
It is a pleasure to be here. I am excited. What is up?
We have a great show today.
Jay Stoyan here for the Disability Channel, the world's only inclusive channel for and by persons with disabilities.
Get ready to be inspired, everyone.
We have people watching from all over the world, but also all over Ontario.
We also take a concerted attention in the veterans community.
In moments of stress and trauma, we can get a hold of ourselves.
To help make a difference for people with disabilities, to show people how to love themselves or their disability.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys having me, giving this platform for myself and other people with disabilities.
Thank you so much, folks, for joining us for this episode of the Disability Channel of Detroit. Please tune in next time.
Hey, we're back. I didn't expect that. That's so fast. So now, Kenya, when I read this, you really extended yourself. You really pushed it out there, and that's the best. So can you talk about that experience?
Absolutely. So I was mentioning that there's a Little People of America convention that happens every summer in a different city. There's also this thing called World Dwarf Games, which is a sporting event for people with dwarfism that happens every 4 years. So back in 2013, there were the World Dwarf Games that were taking place in Lansing, Michigan. And there were people from Kenya who really wanted to travel to Michigan for the Dwarf Games. But the people who were supporting the organization, including the senator of Nairobi, who was the patron of the organization, said, "You don't have a formal organization in place. There's no way we can fund or support you traveling to the States, because what if you don't come back? And then that's our responsibility." So a group of little people formalized their chapter of the Little People of Kenya and put together an event that was on International Day of People with Disabilities, December 3rd, in Kenya. And they wanted to have speakers. They reached out to me on Twitter. Around that time, when they reached out, I had also heard from like the First Baptist Church in England, and it was one of those things where it was a total spam. I thought I was being invited to speak at a church in England, but it didn't end up turning into anything. So I was a little nervous getting a message from someone from Kenya, but I encouraged the person to give me a call so I could tell that they were a real person. And they worked several months to get the support funding they needed, because they didn't want me to have to pay out of pocket. I wasn't working at the time, so it was important for me to have that support. And then they invited a few other people that were able to attend, who I could fly with, because my family was a little nervous. Even though I was an adult, it was a little scary to be going to Kenya by myself. And there was another family that I was able to meet in Washington, D.C. and fly with to Kenya. And it was the week of Thanksgiving here in the States. So I traveled on that day and got there in order to be at the event. And what was awesome about going there is just fewer layers to get the recognition that the organization deserved, especially when it comes to the media. We were all over town doing interviews with newspapers and radio stations and morning shows, and there was word all around the country about the importance of this organization coming together. And at the launch event that happened in downtown Nairobi, there were about 500 people who attended, families who were bringing their children out for the first time to show that there's a reason to be more inclusive and accepting of dwarfism. People were dancing, having a great time. And I learned to appreciate a lot more that we forget to appreciate, those things we have here that aren't there. But seeing smiles on so many faces really showed that there was a passion and a desire to be more inclusive. And even since I've left, the organization has continued to grow and spread more awareness around Kenya and the rest of even the continent of Africa.
Wow. And you did that. I mean, that's got to feel like an amazing accomplishment and feeling. Yeah. Wow. That's fantastic. Can you talk about the type of dwarfism that you have? And
I have achondroplasia. It's the most common form of short-limbed dwarfism. And short-limbed dwarfism just means that I have an average height torso. So if I'm sitting next to average height people, it may appear that I'm the same height, but I have shorter arms and legs. And then even though I have an average sized torso, all of my organs are more compact. So what's common with my type of dwarfism is spinal stenosis, where the spinal column is pinching up against the spinal cord, and it may require surgical intervention. And that was something that I did have to have done at 15 years old. And I also had bowed legs when I was really young. So I had leg surgery when I was 3, and then again when I was 13. And then narrow ear canals lead to the need for tubes and just the tighter airways. Most people with dwarfism get their tonsils and adenoids removed. So I've had about 8 surgeries, and it's not something that anyone is excited about, but at the same time, it's not something that's prevented me from accomplishing what I want. So when people tried to say that people with dwarfism have it hard, I don't want people to feel bad for me. I just want them to give me a chance to participate in society in a meaningful way. Because I think I've learned a lot from the process as well.
Yeah, I mean, you are a definite example for sure that there are no limits really to what you can do. And I have like I'm 4'5". I have Turner syndrome, which does it's pituitary. Pituitary is different because it's proportionate, like your arms and legs. But I cannot. Most people with Turners are not able to have children. There's some that are, and that was a real shock. We have hearing loss. We also do get inner ear problems. I had tubes as a child, and I couldn't. It was like a whole summer you can't swim. A lot of ear infections, and so I can relate to that. Another thing I can relate to is you were a Toastmaster.
Yes,
I know what that is because I was too, and I love that. I read that in researching you, and I was like, oh wow, okay, that's a common thing too. And then, the ear thing. I have a hearing loss in my left ear, so there's a lot of things we can relate to.
I have hearing loss in my right ear.
Yeah. So, and I know people with achondroplasia, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah.
They do a lot of back surgeries because I have lots of friends that have gone through that. This is hard for me to talk about, but I don't have children, and that was a big issue in my life. And I know that you are a mother, you just recently had a loss of your child, and I just know that has to hurt, and I feel my empathy towards you, and Jackson is adorable. I watched your little video of his tribute, and I had tears, and he's just a joy, and he will forever be around us.
Yeah.
When you look at that face. So thank you so much. And let's see. I just want to know if there's some more things that I didn't bring out in today's conversation that you would like to say. We'll take another short break, and then we'll come back, and we will talk about some things that you would like to say as last thoughts, how to contact you, through social media. And yeah, so we'll be back, okay? Back. So fast, you know. So how can people get in touch with you or your company if there are other corporations that want to discuss equality in business?
The website, which has a lot of forward-facing resources, is called disabilityin.org. So disabilitin.org. And you can see my profile on there and other people who work on the team. And there are a lot of great disability resources on that website. You can also find my speaker information at beckymotivates.com. And you can always email me at beckymotivates@gmail.com.
Terrific. And what are some things that we didn't talk about that you would like to make sure people understand?
I think it's important for people to really understand what the word disability means. I think we assume that it's only related to those differences you can see that are apparent, but 75% of disabilities are non-apparent. So there may be more people with disabilities in the room with you at any point in time than you may be aware of. So create that safe space, share your story if you have a relationship to disability, and that will encourage others to share theirs. And hopefully that can bring more of people's whole selves to the workplace. We would like to see more disability narratives and conversations and representation in the media. So if there's any ways we can influence that and stop assuming that there isn't talent, there's a growing talent pool of people with disabilities working very closely with the Casting Society and other organizations to skill up in order to be ready and able to work on any opportunity that comes their way.
And actually, we're doing that right now. We are creating the awareness, and also we are having conversation, and we want to make it more natural, because people with disabilities do have amazing stories and amazing things that we've been through in our lives that could just help everyone and just be more variety out there, because we're not all person. We're not all the same person at all. And that's what we can share. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know whether I should say this or not, but is there something about work? Are you getting a new opportunity or at your job, or?
Oh, it's just review season. But
okay.
We're working on expanded responsibilities.
Great. Yeah, I'm aware of those because I worked for a hotel for like 30 years. as well. And yeah, I know the reviews. Yep. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Keep in touch. And it was a joy to have you. And I'm so happy you shared with us. Thanks a lot. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.